Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the NextCycle Michigan I2P3 webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about the intergovernmental initiatives and public-private partnerships challenge track that will be launching today. The open application period starts today. The application packet is available online. We're going to give you so much more detail on this. I wanted to let all of you know that this webinar is being recorded, so it will be available on the NextCycle Michigan YouTube channel. Give us a couple of days to process that, but that will be up, and we'll share out a link and a follow-up email to all those who registered. I also want to take care of a couple of logistics issues. We have in Zoom webinars 2 opportunities for you to connect with us. One is through the Q&A button and one is through the chat. I would love to encourage all of you to use the Q&A button to send over your questions for our panel. That is going to help us to keep those questions organized. And when we get to the Q&A session at the end of the presentations, I can then pull from those and ask our panelists all of the questions, or as many as we can get to at the end. The chat function, we encourage you to chat amongst yourselves. Please say hi to each other. It's definitely a networking opportunity, so please feel free to do that. But just please, the questions go into the Q&A. Otherwise, we might miss them because that chat feed rolls real quick. The Q&A function queues those up for us. So I am going to get us started by introducing our first speaker, and that is Matt Flechter. He is from the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, as we so lovingly call it, EGLE. He's a recycling market development specialist, and he has been with NextCycle Michigan from the start, so he knows this frontwards, backwards, but he's going to give us a little insight into EGLE's perspective of what's happening in the state and how NextCycle fits into it. Matt?
Thanks, Melissa. Are we good? Awesome. My name's Matt Flechter. It's good to be here. I wanted just to do a quick introduction about what this is all about. Some of you have probably heard from some of the recycling specialists like Tracy, Emily, and Jeff, just hearing about what NextCycle is, but recycling is part of a complex system. And making sure that system works at all levels is what EGLE is all about. And NextCycle is an important part of that process because we want to accelerate your ideas. We want to connect you with funding opportunities and partnerships because the landscape is changing pretty dramatically in recycling, and Michigan is on the front lines of those changes. Some of those changes that are taking place have to do with the story about how climate intersects with recycling and how you can tell stories at your community or public and private sector areas to show that having a strong recycling system, collection, processing, and in markets is a real climate solution. Also, Michigan's changing pretty rapidly because of Part 115 amendments. And those are our solid waste regulations. And we've gone through about a decade of process to amend the statute that looks at things like regulations of recycling facilities. It sets goals of a 45% recycling rate. It looks at organics as well. And we're really excited about seeing that launch to the next level. But this group, and why you might be here is you might have a project or an idea that you're looking to launch right now. And so we will work with you to dovetail that really nicely with the 115 amendments so that it's seamless and you're actually ready to launch with your ideas in advance of how the Part 115 materials management planning process as that gets launched as well. So there's a lot of really exciting energy coming from that as well. NextCycle Michigan is all about connecting your ideas with funders, with the technical assistance and knowledge necessary to get your idea to the next level. We know that in-markets are really important to growing Michigan's circular economy. And having the public and private sector working together on collection and processing is a really important part of that. So we're really glad you're here, and we're looking forward to the next steps together. Thanks, Melissa. Oh, and here we are, Kira. That was my bad.
No, you're
Hey,
good.
Kira, you're up.
Such a smooth handoff. But thanks for setting the stage, Matt. I'm definitely excited to talk more about NextCycle Michigan and really what the program's all about in a bit more detail that Matt was alluding to. And NextCycle Michigan is really a program centered around building a regional circular economy. It's uniquely designed to help accelerate high quality investable solutions that really have two core elements. The innovation challenges are designed to provide strategic support to both businesses and communities, really through a 6 to 8 month program that includes technical support, networking, training workshops, and you'll hear a lot more detail about some of what goes into those today. But the other element is the partnership network, and this really complements and helps drive the innovation challenge experience by attracting collaborators, funders, change leaders, all who can help be part of accelerating solutions and importantly, ensuring that viable projects get the strategic support and funding needed to be successful. And all of these NextCycle activities are really driven by a core goal of reaching a 45% recycling rate, which the benefits really go beyond just how much material we are throwing away. On the next slide, you'll see really our recycling path forward. According to the gap analysis that NextCycle Michigan published, 6.8 million tons of material we throw away in Michigan, but recovering just 2.7 million tons of that material helps us reach that 45% recycling goal. But those benefits don't stop there, because all of that feeds into helping the economy as well. Through all of those recycling activities, Michigan can realize $9 billion in potential total labor income and $33 billion in potential economic output at that 45% recycling rate. And the benefits go into climate and social impact potential as well, with an additional 7 million tons of carbon CO2 emissions being avoided at that 45% goal. But we're also able to reach disadvantaged communities through helping accelerate new businesses, helping those communities directly to provide support and make sure that we're having reach across the full state. And by creating a circular economy, we're really able to help with keeping value in communities. You know, materials that get collected in communities can then come back to those same communities as new business feedstocks or, you know, new economic opportunities. And on the next slide, this goes into really access being at a core element of helping reach some of those recycling goals. Collecting materials is part of where the recycling supply chain starts. And we may think of recyclables as our typical curbside, ideally curbside opportunities for paper, cans, glass, plastics that we want to recycle, but there's also a lot of other materials that we need to capture to reach our state goals, including paints, textiles, mattresses. A lot of those materials tend to be collected at comprehensive drop sites, which just adding 100 comprehensive drop sites across the state could reach 98% of our population. And that goes back to making sure that we're really reaching communities and people. But of course, these materials go somewhere, and NextCycle is working to both improve our access, but also expand how that material is being processed, where it's going, and really getting material to markets where it can then come back into value as our communities. So NextCycle Innovation Challenge tracks are really designed to address the vast opportunities that we have to impact the recycling supply chain in Michigan, whether it's food scraps and organics, composting solutions, many of those types of solutions happening in the public sector, which is why you're all here. And then new technology also being a really important part of driving solutions, mainly on the processing side, but even how we can innovate around new materials that we're seeing every day, and all of the various connections that come into play here. So these tracks continue to be centered around strategic topics that data is telling us that we need to address, but also hearing from communities the qualitative input that goes into the story of building a circular economy in Michigan. And to date, we've already seen a lot of success and great projects coming through the program. On the next slide, you'll see just the total awards that have been presented to teams. Today, we've supported 56 teams in the Innovation Challenge tracks, and we hope to see a lot more in the coming years. And each of these Innovation Challenge track programs closes out with a showcase where teams can share about their solutions and what they're doing and receive awards, which to date, $81,600 have been presented to teams. So this is really part of a larger picture because beyond just the teams that we're supporting, the partnership network has projects and there's various Michigan resources that are going to making sure that we can build a strong circular economy in Michigan through recycling and materials management. And there's already a number of projects tracked, over 200 across the state that are either already complete or we're helping make sure that they're going to be successful and get to the finish line. And that partnership network is, of course, helping drive investments to make sure those solutions can really reach their full fruition. And I'll hand it off to Elisa to go into more details on one specific Innovation Challenge track.
Thank you, Kira. So welcome all. I am gonna now share with you some of the particulars around I2P3. This track is really focused on public sector leadership in the recovery space. So it's an opportunity for communities, for nonprofits, for universities, other educational institutions to come forward with ideas, with projects to accelerate and develop their unique programs and services and help them come to fruition. So I thought I would start by sharing with you a little bit about the teams that came through in our last cohort, because I really feel like by seeing and hearing examples of the kinds of teams that might lead some of you to think, oh, yeah, that's kind of similar, or I can see how that project is in line with something I could do. So of these teams, one was in Alger County. This is up in the UP, and this actually brought together several Upper Peninsula applicants into one project, really pursuing how they're going to develop recycling access in very rural region of the state, all the way to the other end where the city of Ann Arbor, which has a lot of programs and services, is really going like cutting edge. What is the next step to build their circular economy totally across the full gamut of reduce, reuse, recycle, and composting resources? Mount Pleasant's project was really interesting because it brought together the city of Mount Pleasant with Central Michigan University to really explore co-digestion and bringing in food waste and sludge to their wastewater treatment plant and how they could expand that for more recovery of food scraps. So just because we have a special organics track, which is our flows track, doesn't mean a public sector lead can't apply to I2P3 to explore an organics project. The Shiawassee project was a collaboration of Shiawassee Health and Wellness, the County Community Mental Health Authority, and Great Lakes Fusion, who is a recycling service provider. And they were not only interested in expanding recycling services, but also growing vocational opportunities through this experience to help meet their objective of job growth for those that struggle finding good jobs. NEMCOG, this is in Northeast Michigan. This team was really trying to build support in the region for a public sector-led MRF development, for a regional MRF, and developing an authority in the process. So there's a lot of organizational elements to that project. ROSUC is an authority that in Oakland County, and they were really focusing on developing a strategic plan for storm and disaster debris management. So again, this could have been an organics project in that other track, but because it was a public sector lead, they could come in and really explore how developing a disaster debris plan can help keep wood waste out of the landfill. Pontiac, I'm going to not say much about this because Damany is going to be speaking next, and he will share about their project, so you can actually hear from an alumni of the tracks. And then the last one was Benton Harbor, which partnered with Western Michigan Sustainable Business Forum, and they were really like, how do we grow the circular economy in Benton Harbor? How do we develop recycling services? Really starting kind of early stage, but a lot of it was organizational and exploring what would be next best steps forward. So now I'm going to take a step back and talk about the types of projects in a different way. So one objective we have is to see material recovery programs and services scale in Michigan. So you can have an idea that, well, if we got this project on the ground, it could scale, it could expand, or you could have an existing project. Say you have a compost facility, but you want to be able to add food scraps, and you want to be able to bring those food scraps from businesses, for example, from restaurants. That would be an example of scaling with I2P3. There's also the possibility that maybe your project is very community specific. Say you really want to focus on developing a reuse and tool share hub, but that could be replicated in other communities. So replicating is another way of scaling a project for more impact. In terms of innovation, it's something that ties across all NextCycle Michigan projects, but it doesn't mean you have to think up something brand new and unique. You could say, I saw this other community get, curbside carts in their small city, and that'll be innovative for us because we don't have that yet. So these are all examples of the type of project, how we want to see growth within the project, and also how you can bring partners in, bring in those commercial businesses or bring in that nearby region. Say you want to develop a comprehensive drop-off center and have a super drop-off, but if you develop that, you could bring in surrounding communities to access it. So all aspects of the recovery supply chain need to improve to reach EGLE's goal of a 45% diversion rate. And so Kira talked quite a bit about access and collection. Processing is another area where we need more capacity in Michigan. We look at our gap analysis and we know there are communities that don't have access, or if they have a drop site, they could move to curbside for better recovery. Not only in terms of processing, we don't only need new facilities to process materials, there's the opportunity to expand existing MRFs so they could accept more material for more communities. And we're always looking to build end markets within the state, so we keep resources within our own state circular economy. So there are always opportunity for end market development. And of course, we're always looking for improving around education and engagement, supporting policies, which is something local governmental units have the opportunity to develop best practice policies to drive recovery, and to increase access to other public and private sector funding. And these are all elements within the track that we will be supporting teams in furthering. So throughout the I2P3 experience, there are going to be curated opportunities for networking and strategic partnering to help develop your plan. Capacity building, what's it really going to take? So kind of business development planning, but for the public sector. You will be getting one-on-one consulting support and mentorship throughout the months-long track, and really helping you as a team develop sustainable funding development, both funding mechanisms as well as accessing the capital investment you need for your project to be successful. So in a snapshot, I would just like to share the timeline for the I2P3 experience. The application period opens today, so you'll be able to go online into the portal and access that application. We will have one-on-one office meetings that you can set up a calendar invite for to sort of check in and talk about your project with one of our team. But there's also going to be an application party on February 23rd where everyone can join and you can hear each other's questions and work through the application together and separately in breakout rooms. The application period closes March 31st with teams selection process in April. We will onboard the selected teams in May. We'll have a boot camp, which is a multi-day dynamic, interactive experience in June. There will be team coaching through the summer with the showcase in October, which is where there are awards, there's more partnership opportunities and investment potential. So I just wanted to touch base before we move on is eligible teams. You do need a public sector lead on this team. If you're joining as a private sector lead, recycling supply chains or RSC is the track for you. You need at least one potential partner. But if you don't have an idea around that, you can always join an office session and ask who could be a good partner for me. If you're a city, it could be a township, it could be a neighboring city, it could be a county or a neighboring county, it could be a nonprofit that you could work with. You also need to identify a gap, like what your project is going to demonstrate, what it's going to do, what's the impact going to be, and you need to identify the kind of technical support that you believe this challenge track can help you with. Ineligible teams, basically, if you don't have a local government partner, and if there's no direct impact, like it can't just be research or a survey or a study. We really want something to get implemented to make real things happen. So as you're going to hear next from our alumni speaker, I really want you to think about envisioning success in your own community. Like, how can you center an initiative and bring in those partners that are going to drive your success? So some of the examples that you can think about is contracting services, reuse and repair, solutions for organics, as I mentioned before, any kind of collaboration that will improve programs you already have to increase impact. It could be adding new materials, it could be adding an aggregation site, drop-off centers. There's so much opportunity for growth in the state around those. And downtown solutions. We don't want to forget commercial businesses in our communities and that they're not getting the recovery services that they need. So the last point I wanted to make was that Matt mentioned Part 115 in the Materials Management Planning and coming in 2024. You might be thinking, well, if I have to plan next year and that's going to be this whole new thing, why would I consider I2P3 now? And the reason you would consider it now is because if you have a project idea, if you know how you want a program to grow, NextCycle Michigan can accelerate that plan. It can accelerate your development. And then when Part 115 planning comes along, you're that much more ready, you're that much more prepared. And the really cool thing about Part 115 that I don't think Matt mentioned is that it will be 3 years of funding from the state to the counties or the regional planning districts. But that money, once the plan is done, can then be used for implementation. So again, the more ready you are, the sooner that plan can be developed and approved, and you can move on to implementation with some of that state funding. So that's a little snapshot of what you can expect in I2P3. And I would now like to hand this off to Damany Head. He is the chair of the board of the Pontiac Regional Chamber of Commerce. He's also principal at Essential Recycling, providing recycling services. And Damany, I'm handing it off to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Elise. Thanks for everyone joining today. Really appreciate your time and attention. Just a few words about me first. So my name is Damany Head. I'm from the Pontiac Regional Chamber. My background is I have a mechanical engineering degree from Ohio Northern, as most you can read. Kind of the impetus for me being in the recycling industry was I was working at General Motors and I love vitamin water and I was drinking the bottles. And then one day I was like, after some conversations with Chanel, I realized that I was basically being disrespectful to the earth in the sense of like, what could that bottle be reimagined as? And Chanel said to me, what about a recycled t-shirt? My manufacturing mind went off and said, how do you manufacture a recycled t-shirt? That's not at all what she means. men are from Mars, women are from Venus. She really meant, let's put a label on it with a recycling symbol. And I jumped into this conversation about manufacturing products from post-consumer waste. And so we started diving into that, and we started a recycling program at a nonprofit in Pontiac called Lighthouse. We did a drop-off center for their path house, and that was right before we had children. And so we started that, and it was a really great experience to start learning about recycling, because I'd had a perspective about manufacturing, but not necessarily a perspective about recycling. So next slide. So kind of fast forward, I took over the Pontiac Regional Chamber in 2016, and part of my mission was to improve the business community in Pontiac. And we had a really great opportunity to connect with the city of Pontiac, Oakland County, on various projects throughout the past 6 years. And it gave us a great opportunity to start this conversation about the Northern Oakland County Resource Recycling Authority. We started the application process, as Elise mentioned too, and we're like, well, what is it we want to actually do? And I was like, there was a past precedent in the southern region of the county that we had waste authorities or resource authorities. And so we said that would be a great innovation for the northern region of Oakland County. And so we started recruiting and having conversations with the city of Pontiac and Orion Township, as well as the Oakland County. So we put an application together. That application included letters of support from the city of Pontiac, Orion Township, and Oakland County. They were participants in the project. Next slide. So our project was to increase equitable access to sustainable material management in Northern Oakland County communities by establishing a recycling authority. So our goal was, there's a vast diversity of recycling options, whether it was a 16-gallon bin or 64-gallon, or in some communities you could order up to a 96-gallon bin. But there really wasn't a consistent best practice across all of the communities in the northern region of Oakland County. So one of the things we set out to do was to include cities that had recycling already, and look at economies of scale by putting the authority together for hauling of materials, whether that be garbage or recycling material. Next slide. So you can see here, these are organizations or municipalities that we included in the conversation. And as you can see to the left, there's the supporting organizations that really kind of assumed kind of the project management of the project and work together cooperatively to include these communities. Next slide. So one of the biggest anchors of this conversation was really looking at what would be the difference if an authority existed. So, and you can see adding NACRA, the percent of population with access under an authority increases from 45% to 81%. And we thought that was significant enough to say, hey, if we could bring local communities together in different municipalities, we might have an opportunity to impact the 45% number. So, we set out to have discussions with these organizations, these municipalities. And so we've to date have included Bloomfield Township, City of Pontiac, Waterford, Oakland Township, Rochester Hills, and Oakland County. Next slide. So we looked at what are the possible benefits to this. And so, leading from the chamber, a few of our members already have sustainability initiatives. And so part of using the chamber or, partnering with the chamber was to better understand, like, hey, we know to go to 45%, we're going to need partnerships in the public and private space. So we thought, the chamber, along with the municipalities, could really create a strong partnership, not only for curbside, but also for waste that may be from local businesses, as well as the downtown centers in these communities. Next slide. So this is our thank you slide. So what we want to point out here is through the process of doing our pitch, so some of these slides are from our pitch, what you're seeing is the different opportunities that we thought we could make a difference with. And, specifically what we thought we could make a difference with is that bringing the communities together, which was really innovative in the northern region, really gave us access to opportunities, not only within the municipality, but also gave us access to opportunities with the business community in those cities. And so partly what we ended up pitching was that by bringing all of the people together, cities, municipalities, and businesses, we have an opportunity to hit 45%. And that's basically what we did. And so I want to make a couple points as I end this. I think some of the keys to being successful in bringing it all together was, making sure that you're asking for participation from people that you think could make a difference. I think the program itself made a significant difference, given that it was time bound. So Elise set out the kind of schedule. And I think the one thing that we didn't have that I2P3 brought that was instrumental was the leadership and the technical experience to actually bring the whole project together. At this date, we're working with an attorney to establish the authority. And this is the same attorney that's established authorities across Michigan. And that asset to the project is what I think brought everything together and started to formulate the bylaws for the organization. Next slide. All right, so I'm going to hand it off to Stephanie. If you guys have questions, I would love to answer them.
All right. Thank you, Damany. It was great to hear about your experience with I2P3 and the impacts of your work. I'm Stephanie Robinson. I'm an analyst with RRS, and I'm supporting the I2P3 track as an administrator under Elisa. So over the next few slides, we'll walk through the I2P3 application process. As you can see here, the application period officially begins today, January 31st, and will remain open through March 31st. Okay, and the application process, your team will begin by navigating to the link you see on your screen. From this link, you'll be able to download the I2P3 application packet, which will be your resource for all of the I2P3 application information and track insights. Once your team has reviewed the packet, you can begin your application through the online portal and later submit to complete. Okay, and here we'll go over the application packet. The application packet provides additional details about the application process, like I mentioned, as well as the timeline, as well as track details, eligibility requirements, important web pages, and important context for you folks as you're working through the application process. All right, and then what will be asked in the application? The information you'll be asked to provide includes information about your organization, a description of your project work, the intended impact of your project, and finally, letters of support and background on your partners. All right, and then finally, the application packet, like I said, will provide you with tons of information, but you might still have some questions. So we're inviting those who might be interested in applying to attend our application party on February 23rd. The party will provide your team with an opportunity to ask questions, interact with the NextCycle staff, connect with prospective peer teams, and all do it in a fun and friendly environment. All right, and this is where I'll hand it back to Elisa to talk more about the key folks that'll be available to you as resources.
Sure, thank you, Steph. The NextCycle staff for I2P3 is as follows. I will serve as the track lead. Steph, as she mentioned, is going to be our administrator. So she is going to help me in all things and will be available as a resource. Matt Nod with RRS and Karen O'Brien, the three of us are going to make up the office hours. So as I mentioned, there's going to be a link in that application packet as part of your resources. It's also on the website. And you can just click that link. It'll take you to available times with each of us, and you can choose to meet with the three of us. There are going to be others on the NextCycle staff ready to support you. And that includes some of the Eagle staff. So Tracy and Jeff also have been super involved with I2P3 and will be glad to chat with you. You can reach out to them directly through Eagle. And they are very familiar with I2P3 and can also support any questions you may have. So that's how you can reach us. And I really just want to wrap up before questions by just reminding all of us, bringing it full circle to how can you improve recycling and recovery in your community, and who can you partner with, and how, what other communities, what other partners are available to really work with the best practices available in policy and applicable law. And, as Matt and I both stated, Part 115 changes are an opportunity. This is a huge opportunity to work with the new legislation and benefit from that. Improving collection and access to recycling and composting, improving the processing and reprocessing of materials so they can get back into the supply chain. And that's really, that's what the circular economy is. We are really trying to connect all those dots so recovery is improved and expanded across the state, rural and urban, commercial and residential, public space recycling, those super drop-offs we mentioned. There's so many opportunities for improvement, recognizing those gaps and opportunities, and really bringing your best ideas forward. So we look forward to working with all of you. And I think we are now ready for any questions that may have been gathered. And I will hand it back to Melissa to moderate the questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I will invite all of our panelists to turn on their videos, and we'll walk through some questions. Audience, if you have not submitted your questions yet, please use the Q&A button. It looks like a double thought bubble or speech bubble button in your little navigation on the Zoom webinar. Please submit them. I'm watching them as they're flowing through here, and I'm going to grab them and ask our panelists. There's one question I can answer. How does one access the application portal? Well, the first step is to go on to the NextCycle Michigan website, which is nextcyclemichigan.com. There is an apply button. It's nice and bright green up in the right corner. You click on the apply button, and then you're going to see instructions on how to download the packet. Please read through the packet. That is going to give you all the instructions you need, helpful information about what you need to bring to that online portal. And then I'm going to ask one of the panelists here, maybe Kira, within the application packet, is there information on how to get to the actual portal itself?
Yeah, so both on the apply page from the NextCycle Michigan website, you'll be able to link to the online portal, which you will need an account for, but there's also links in the application packet, which also has the preview to what questions will show up. But you'll start with just making a profile or account in that online portal, and you'll be able to see the cues to actually start your application.
And they can start and stop, correct? Like they don't have to have it all at once.
Yeah, absolutely. Since it's something that you log into, you'll be able to see your past applications if you've utilized the portal before, and track the status throughout, but also save your application as you're going through. So it's definitely pretty versatile, and our team is happy to support with using the portal as well.
Love the feature of start and stop, because I am notorious in any type of online application where I get to a point and I don't have that piece of information and have to go find it. So love that we've put that into our online portal. Another question we have is someone is out of state, but they'd like to work with Michigan food waste generators who would like to reduce their carbon footprint by bringing this company's particular technology to Michigan. I'm going to throw this to Elisa. Can you comment on how does NextCycle fit with this particular scenario? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people who are out of state and trying to figure out how do they connect within Michigan.
Sure, that's a great question. You are absolutely invited into NextCycle, but you need a Michigan partner to apply. And in this case, for I2P3, it needs to be a public sector partner. So in your case, it would either be a nonprofit or a community. That is something that you could reach out in an office hour and sort of share what your technology is. And one of our team might have ideas for communities that would be open to connecting with you. So that would be one approach if you don't already have identified potential project partners. And if either Matt or Kira want to share any further on that, please do.
Yeah, I will. Thanks, Elisa. First of all, thank you for attending and bringing your ideas to Michigan. It's one of the things that we're really excited about with how NextCycle has connected a network of people that are all working to create a circular economy, and what better place to do that than in Michigan. So we stand ready to support the development. Some of our best stories of NextCycle teams that have come through the other tracks are from companies that are looking to make partnerships in the state. So we are, I think one thing that you might want to do directly is reach out to us, and I would do it through the NextCycle portal first to say there's a button on there, get involved, because we could connect you into a couple of different spots and make sure that as we are working with other communities, and there might be a team on here that's like, wait a second, I'm thinking about food waste, what is this? And so that we can connect you in with those existing teams. But also reach out to me, I'll drop my email here in there in the chat, and then we can start a conversation directly as well. So we can do it both ways, and making sure that our team at Eagle has an understanding about what it is that you're looking for.
And to piggyback on that, tomorrow we are having another webinar that is our recycling supply chain track. And that one is more private sector leaning, but still can be partnering with various entities. So even though we're talking about public sector leading the teams in this particular track, the RSC track, which is tomorrow, is more private leaning in those entities, private sector leaning. So may want to join us tomorrow. If there's further information that you're looking for from that particular track, you can also go online to just learn more about the differences in the tracks, and of course contact either via office hours, which, if people are wondering what the heck is an office hour, it's just basically a quick online virtual meeting, kind of like we're having here, but just one-on-one, where you can talk to one of the RS staff or the NextCycle staff and get your specific questions answered. So if you're looking at, as we're talking about, a specific opportunity, technology, project idea, trying to figure out if this is the right fit or which track is the right fit, that's a really great way to have a discussion and figure out which direction you need to go in next. So really encourage you to connect on the website. Matt put his email in the chat box there, so don't be afraid to reach out to Matt. He's very nice, he'll respond, and get more information. I would like to ask Damany if he could let us in on a little bit of the behind the scenes of NextCycle from a team perspective. There's certain onboarding, and there's a boot camp, and then there's the showcase. Can you give us a little bit from a team perspective? Walk us through that. What was your team's experience? What types of each of those types of support events within the track itself, how that impacted your project?
Yeah, sorry, that was a great question. So I think even at the start of the application during the office hours, I think that was a really good process to speculate on who might be in, right? And through convening the boot camp, it was a really great tool to take the speculation and then go create a team, right? And so I think with that speculation, we were able to create a team and then start to coalesce around data that would be particularly useful for our category. And as you saw in one of the slides, 45% to an 81% jump in servicing for households would make a significant difference under the waste authority, and also offer the community. So like the nugget that we started to formulate around was, hey, we can get economies of scale for our communities. And given that Part 115 was coming, not yet there may be new opportunities with those economies of scales that would make a difference for communities that are not under an authority. So just jumping in the office hours, which is a really great opportunity to speculate, and then actually working on the application and going out and find those letters of support, which solidified, hey, we're in, right? Once we got accepted, then gave us the capability to then say, hey, we've reached out to the county, right? Which we thought was a great leverage point. We have 2 cities that are really instrumental. So the conversations we had internal as a team was like, okay, how do we actually actualize our office hour conversations? And then once we actualized being a participant, it was like, okay, what data do we need to start to like coalesce around that makes sense for the growth? And so the other piece of data that we realized was we had a lot of expiring contracts. And so the expiring contracts gave us an opportunity to discuss with the cities like, hey, this is a great opportunity to form an authority for those that are already expiring. And for those that are yet to expire, the authority would be formed, so it'd be an opportunity to join. Does that kind of answer your question?
It does. It does. I'm gonna follow up. I'm gonna
Okay.
hold you hostage right now, and I'm gonna
Okay,
have you
go
answer a
ahead.
few more questions. So if somebody, your potential team is going, okay, what's this boot camp thing about? What should I expect when I'm going into this multi-day event? Give us a little bit of the feel of what you experienced in this boot camp, where you're meeting with different mentors, you're getting business and technical support, you're working out your business plan, your pitch. Give us a little feel for what that boot camp felt like.
Yeah, so again, for our boot camp, I think one of the coalescing points was who's the expertise that we need to have in the room to solidify the validity of our project. And so we had done a lot of talking, right? Like talking was happening, talking. It's like, okay, we got to have something that holds the whole thing together. And that was the attorney, right? Like that was a technical piece of the project that really made the most sense. And so even though we had already like said, okay, here's some data, here's this data, right? We put together a chart, put together the map, nothing really crystallized until we're like attorney. And so that attorney piece was really critical, because then you could send an email like, hey, we're inviting you to participate in this conversation with XYZ attorney, which people responded to. I think it gave it more validity and solidified that. And so part of what I think the leadership provided from the I2P3 track was, we did the baby steps. Okay, now it's time to take the leap, right? Like you got to get the leap in there, because all those baby steps are great, but at some point to have a successful project, I2P3 project, you got to have something that crystallizes and brings everyone together.
Thanks, Damany. It sounds like it helped. Well, it accelerated you to the next step. Yes,
there was definitely like, and I think that the boot camp plus this project's ending at this time, right? That timeline always helps people get stuff done. And so, I can say, yeah, it was accelerated. I think it was, far beyond what acceleration is, because now we have, today we're having our follow-up meeting with our attorney about the bylaws, and, Pontiac's in and Orion Township's in, and we're talking about writing grants together. And so, in less than 6 months, we have something that's really real for everyone else.
And that's fabulous. And that's from not having any sort of authority in Northern Oakland County.
Yep.
This is from scratch. So,
Yep.
So that's really good. So people can hear that type of timeline that, it went from idea to there's practical application happening at this point. So thank you for explaining that. We have a couple more questions here. as
Yeah,
a
Melissa, let me jump in before you ask. I want to add
Sure.
just a quick thing. So one of the things that we've done here with NextCycle as we build this house, we've listened to what many of you have said that are on this call, and that's you're looking for a combination of technical support, process, and funding. And I originally was thinking that this is all about how the dollars flow, like who's going to pay for what. And while that's important, and that it's not going to be successful if there's not flow of funding to get these ideas launched, and we are seeing some great partnerships coming out of that. It's also about process. It's about how you move through and who's there to support you and who's able to answer those questions that you might have. And so at the boot camp, we just came off of one of those. We had had a boot camp in Grand Rapids for 2 of the tracks, and it was really interesting to watch watch the teams come together and start to formulate what questions they were trying to ask. And through that process of thinking about what it is that they were needing to get accomplished, what their specific ask is. One of the things you see at the boot camp, you do a pitch session, and you're going to be asked, you have to really drill down to do a specific ask. I need X. I need an attorney. I need a technical assistant. I need this piece of data. I need funding for this infrastructure. Going through that process at the boot camp is just, it's a game changer, because it has one of the things that one of the previous teams said is you may have all these really great ideas, but until you get them down on paper and you write them down, you say, this is what I'm trying to do. And you're able to say and point other people, your future partners and funders, to say, this is where we're going. That's what the boot camp's all about, is helping you to get those technical resources, formulate your ideas, and then be able to articulate them.
Matt, thank you for expanding upon that answer. I think that's a great insight into the boot camp and the benefit of spending that multi-day time with that multi-day event. We have a question that crosses the tracks. There's a private sector business. Can they apply with a partner, public sector partner, to I2P3 and also apply on their own for RSC for the recycling supply chain track? So in essence, can they apply to both?
Absolutely, is the easy question. You also could set up, office meetings with each side and sort of like check out and explore where you might be, a better fit. Because these tracks are happening in parallel, there can be some matchmaking even behind the scenes where we might say, you know what, you might be better over on this side or on that side. So it's really your call. Having partners involved definitely strengthens your application. So that's, if you found a public sector partner that could lead, I2P3 might make sense. But if you want to lead this project, applying on the RSC side might make more sense for you.
Fabulous. And then I will ask, there's another track comparison question that's happening. I2P3, we know that's public sector led, but can partner with various other entities. But wondering how the flows track compares, and I believe flows will be happening later this year. Flows is more of the organics recovery, food waste, yard waste, that sort of thing, the organic side of recovery. How does I2P3 compare with flows?
So another good question, and I'll invite others to jump in if they want to, but some of it might be where you are in development. Some of it might be the timing and capacity for you. I2P3, the application's open now. Flows, the application will be open later this spring, summer for fall programming. So you could apply in either, you can apply in both. There may be other organics teams on the public sector in the I2P3 track. It will be all organics teams in the flows track, both public and private sector. Both of them will provide incredible networking opportunities and peer-to-peer collaboration. So I don't think you can go wrong. Anyone else want to jump in on that? Is that good?
Lisa, you're just that good. So there's something that's a very specific question, but I want to open it up in more of a generic way, that if somebody is looking to connect with maybe an alumni team who they think might be a great connection with what they're trying to do, is there an easy way for them to do that?
Absolutely. If you just reach out to NextCycleMichigan@recycle.com, we monitor that email, and there's, whether it's, outreach about your specific project, and we can help pair you with, some background on a track that may fit, or help with scheduling office hours there. We can also help bridge connections either to the larger partner network or even alumni teams. So that would be the starting point. And I would include some background on, what you may be looking to achieve, so we can help really foster the most effective connections.
All right. I am going to reshare my screen as we are getting toward the end of our time today. And the last few minutes, Matt, I wanted to give you 30 seconds that you can kind of wrap up the importance to obviously individual companies and organizations and communities, but overall for the state, that this is an important effort and initiative that Eagle is wholeheartedly supporting.
Yeah, for sure. I want to remind everybody that you're not really recycling until that material that you put at the curb or at your loading dock turns into new materials, new things that we can buy. Really focusing and keeping that in mind, that we're recycling so that we can create a circular economy, creating those jobs, those climate impacts, those environmental impacts, and telling those good local stories about how having a circular economy really does meet a lot of our goals as a state for thriving communities. And so the work that you're doing, we want to see you successful. We need you to be successful to be able to meet those important goals. And that's what NextCycle is all about. Creating those conditions where you've got you're accelerating your ideas, you're accessing the funding, you're getting the technical assistance, and you're telling your story about how that makes a difference. And I'm glad you're all here, and we're looking forward to working with you.
Well, thank you, Matt, and thank you to all of our panelists today. It has been, I'm sure, very helpful for our audience to understand the program, the track, the past experience from an alumni team. On the screen, you'll see the NextCycleMichigan.com website. I encourage you to go there, find a lot of information. Go to that apply button and download the application packet. It is ready for you today. It opened up today. So please download that, get the information, and then don't hesitate to reach out, whether you're sending us an email and you see it there, NextCycleMI@recycle.com, or sign up for those office hours. Even if you don't have a fully fledged idea and you're kind of thinking it's right, but you're not sure, sign up for that quick 30-minute meeting, and you can discuss with someone and figure out where is the proper fit, what is your next step. I'll also say, maybe you're looking for a way to support, or an organization that like to support NextCycle Michigan. We want to talk to them. So feel free to forward them to the website, send them the email, or email us and say, hey, please reach out and contact these folks. They really would make a great partner. We are excited that all of you have joined us today. Hopefully you've received a lot of information that you can act upon. And look for a follow-up email that'll send a link to this recording, and you can share that out to other folks as well as some follow-up information to help you out as you journey forward with NextCycle. Thank you all. I wish you a great afternoon, and we will talk more soon.